British Spy Stories. Season 3. Official Denial. Episode 18. Taras limps over to the front door of his flat and opens it. "Come in," he says, and Victor steps over the threshold. "Coffee?" He pushes the pod into the machine. Then they sit at a table by the window. "So, Victor, have you thought about my offer?" The Russian pauses, then says, "I'm still thinking about it. There's this girl I met. We might go travelling." "I thought you had a girl." "I'm moving on. I've had enough of all these spies." Victor realizes his mistake immediately and feels his heart miss a beat. "What, mate?" Taras turns his head quickly and looks at Victor. "What spies?" The Russian takes a gulp of coffee. "That bloke screwing your missus is British intelligence." The skin on Taras's hand turns white as he pushes his fingers into a fist. Victor has a passing thought that he could be in danger, but Taras lets the pressure out as a string of expletives instead of violence. "How'd you know?" says Taras, trying to sound in control. "He told me." "Why would he do that?" "Don't know." "What else did he say?" "Wanted me to grass you up," says Victor. "Tell them about what you do." The lies flow from his mind easily to create a story that will make Taras feel a closer association to him. "And you said no?" "I'm not a grass man." Taras thinks about all of this new news. "Why is he screwing Nad?" he says. "What's he hope to get out of her? She knows nothing about my operations." "Maybe just to undermine you." "We need to kill him, Victor," says Taras. "And I want you to do it." "That's not my sort of game." He spreads the fingers out on his hands in front of him. "I'm paying you to work for me." "I'm no killer, Taras," says Victor. "I'm loyal to whoever is paying me. But it's you who needs to kill the guy. It's you he's fucked over." "I'm getting desperate here, Victor. This guy is fucking my wife, she's disappeared, and this bloody leg is getting to me." He slaps his hand down on his thigh. "I just need you to get us back on top." Victor is calm. "I've got an idea," he says. "We could arrange to meet him somewhere." "He'd come if I asked him. I got chatting to him at the party, and I could imply I'm willing to go along with his plans. Then we kill him." He picks up his coffee cup and drains the rest of the liquid. "I need it done soon, Victor. I'll message him now. He was desperate when I talked to him." In his room at the Bluebeck Hotel, Hans has slept on and off in the daylight hours, but still feels tired. His phone vibrates on the side table. He rolls over the bed and picks it up, then pulls down the notification bar. It's a text from an unknown number, and he reads it. It's from Victor. It says that the man wants to talk, and can Dan come out to the airport this afternoon to meet and chat. There are instructions of how to find the place. It's out of the way near the old runways. Meeting there will allow them to chat without being seen. Maybe his words to Overbeck at the party had the desired effect, and the guy now wants to accept the deal. Hans wonders what made Victor change his mind. It must be that Overbeck had thought about his future and concluded that this is the best option. The guy just wants to get out of the system, lead a simple life, and go off with this new girl he's met. That much is clear now. He gets up and pulls on his coat, then heads down to the Land Rover beneath the hotel. Hans jumps in and stabs the grid reference for the airport road into the sat-nav. He starts the engine and pulls up the ramp to street level. He calls out a voice command to dial Gabby's phone and hears a ringing tone in the car's speakers. But after 30 seconds, the network trips out, and recording says in Hungarian that the number is not available. It's unusual for Gabby not to have her phone on, he thinks. She's usually all too keen to work at any time of the day or night. Hans calls out to the car to dial Laravel's mobile. But the same thing happens. He considers if he should go and find them, as both phones being off-grid makes him feel uneasy. But if he can get Overbeck to agree to the plan, then it will be a major win for him and the team. Hans pushes the accelerator down further and drives on under the clouds, out to the airport. After a working lunch at the Four Seasons Hotel in Trinity Square, near the Tower of London, Sir Bernard and Connie Barrett agree to walk down to the Thames ferry at Traitor's Gate and catch the boat back to their offices further west. When the boat arrives, they're shown to seats in a private cabin towards the back of the craft. "My mother used to take me on this boat when I was young," says Connie. "Or the old version of it." Sir Bernard looks across at her. "Where did you grow up?" he says. "Chelsea," says Connie. "Father was a big noise in the city. We had a house in the Boltons. I know it seems silly now, given how privileged we were. But that house and the roads around it were like a village to me. Everyone knew each other. The church in the middle of the road, St. Mary's, it felt more like a village church."
"Did he want you to be a banker too?"
"Thank God, no," she says. "I was sent away at 11 to Mayfield, in the middle of the Sussex countryside."
"And did you like it?"
"I was a bit homesick, I suppose. But you learn to cope, learn to fly. It felt like a village there, too."
"How did you end up being a spy?"
says Sir Bernard. "Most Mayfield girls used to go to Oxford in those days. You didn't need to make any decisions. It was a conveyor belt, really. One moment you're finishing the upper sixth, and the next you're living in rooms in St. Hilda's and reporting to your tutor on the first day of Michaelmas term." He smiles. "After 3 years, I went to work for a broker's in Cheapside." She looks at him. "I know that look on your face. Everyone thinks I just use my family connections to get it."
"I said nothing,"
he jokes. "We used to all go to the Old Bell Tavern on Fleet Street on a Friday night after work," continues Connie. "This woman came in and sat down next to me and started talking. Turns out she was with MI5. We chatted and met for lunch the following week. They'd researched me already. Knew about my father, my school, who my friends were at Oxford."
"Did you think you'd go far?"
says Sir Bernard. "I didn't know. I wasn't ambitious," she says. "It just happened, really. I found out I was good at it." The boat rolls to the side as it navigates under Blackfriars Bridge.
"Before we get off, Connie, I wanted to talk to you about Agent Exeter."
He turns towards her in his chair.
"We'll need to move forward with our plan to remove her. Moscow, no. It was dum-dum that we fed her."
"Well, their reaction will depend on the risk for them," she says. "They'll either ignore it, in the hope that she will still be useful in the future, or they may kill her, if they think they're compromised." Her face is unemotional. There's a pause in the conversation between them. Then Sir Bernard says,
"If I were Moscow, I'd probably cut my losses."
Connie has been watching the waves across the water, outside their cabin window. But she turns back to him and takes a long breath out. "Then we urgently need to decide exactly what our exit plan is for her."
I want her alive, Connie, says Sir Bernard. I promised her mother.
She returns to watching the waves, and there's another block of silence between the two senior spies. Then we move. We'll detain her today, take her out of London and talk to her.
Where will you take her?
Pirbright Camp. We've got some interview rooms there for MI5 use, and secure accommodation.
Can I talk to her too when she's there?
Of course, Bernard. We'll jointly decide what is best for both of our services.
She was a good spy before she was turned, he says. I don't know what happened.
Who knows why people become traitors? Blackmail, probably. It never seems to be politics like it used to be, you know? It was easier to understand when they were all communists and recruited at Cambridge by professors.
Simpler times, Connie, he says.
The ferry arrives at Millbank Pier near to the MI5 headquarters in Thames House. They clamber out of the boat and walk up to the bankside. Sir Bernard pulls his coat collar up around his neck as a breeze rolls along the side of the river. I'll call the military police now, she says. Sir Bernard holds his hand out to her and puts his other hand on the back of hers as they shake. We're supposed to hug these days, aren't we, Bernard? He raises his eyebrows.
We should have dinner,
he says. And she smiles. Did your driver bring the car?
I'll walk, it's not far.
He turns and disappears into a gaggle of tourists near the river. And Connie pulls out her phone to make the call. Episode 19. Gabby looks out across the bar that they found on the way back from seeing Overbeck. It is one single large space that had previously been a private house and was converted during Soviet times. There are only 4 other customers at this hour. 4 old men playing cards near the door to the street. What's happening after we finish in Hungary? Says Laravel, picking up a tall, thin beer glass and taking a mouthful of alcohol. Whatever comes up, I guess. There's still a lot to do on these 2 ops we've got, though. Overbeck seems to be getting there, and with a little pressure, he'll see the light, I think. When are we doing the second Millport hit? Says Laravel. Sir Bernard has been chasing me on timings. We need to do some serious planning. The barman, who barely said anything to them when he served them drinks, suddenly shouts out a string of Hungarian, which they don't fully understand, but in the middle of the flow, they both clearly hear the word Sabrina. Laravel walks over to the bar and manages to make herself understood with her Russian. He tells her there's a phone call for someone called Sabrina, and she picks up the phone receiver that is lying at one end of the bar. This is James Brothers to Builders, says a voice. Laravel understands what's needed. I'm glad you called, she says, because I wanted to speak to you about my kitchen extension. Laravel, it's Marlin at London Control. Hi, she says, and beckons Gabby to join her. We've been trying to contact you on Black Hawk, but your phones are off. Are you both okay? We're fine. She pulls out her phone and inspects the screen. There's no mobile signal here, Marlin. There's a message for you from Tech Branch. Go on, says Laravel. She watches Gabby's face as she listens to Control. After a few seconds, she says, Okay, got it. Thanks. Laravel hands the phone back to the barman, who has returned to his non-communicative mode. She nods her head sideways to Gabby to tell her to follow her back out to the main road. What? Says Gabby, once they're outside. London have a red flag from a live transcription of the books in the Caval's flat. says Laravel.
Taras knows that Hans is MI6, and he and Overbeck are setting a trap for him out at the airport. They want to kill him.
Did London not tell him this? Says Gabby.
He's not answering his phone.
We need to get out there. Now.
We've got no transport,
says Laravel.
And there are no taxis this far out of the city.
We'll have to use our imagination, says Gabby.
I've got skeleton keys. Come on.
She leads Laravel along the street, then turns down a side road. A group of young men are standing chatting and swigging from beer bottles on the next corner. The women walk next to a row of cars on the opposite side that are parked by the pavement. The red one, is all Gabby says, as they walk along and stop near a red Renault. Come and be my lesbian for a second.
What?
Put your arms around me like we're in love. Laravel embraces Gabby, and they lean in towards the car. They can hear without looking that the men have seen them. Gabby reaches down with one hand to the lock of the car and pushes the skeleton key inside. Their eyes are 1 inch apart as she turns her fingers behind her, without looking away. One of the young men wolf whistles from across the street. 4 seconds pass as Gabby turns her hand. Then, the sound of the lock opening comes from the door. You can stop now, she says. They scramble into the car. Gabby rips the wiring from under the steering column, finds the 2 main wires, and the engine fires up.
Do we know the route?
Says Laravel. When your phone gets a network, get a grid ref from London, says Gabby. The group of men have started to walk over to the car. She slams her foot down hard on the pedal, and the Renault spins its wheels. Then the tyres grip, and they speed away. 2 minutes later, Laravel is inspecting her phone.
It's half an hour, Gab.
Fuck, she says, and pushes the car harder along the side streets. After 10 minutes, they are out onto the main road. Laravel calls London and parrots back to Gabby what she's being told. She listens on her phone to Marlin's information.
There are 2 places near the airport that he uses often. One is a warehouse on the western side.
And the other? Says Gabby.
Hang on.
Laravel listens.
Yeah, okay. It's an old disused road system that was abandoned when they added the new terminal.
It's that one, says Gabby definitively. Get the grid ref. Laravel gets the data, then ends the call and types the grid ref into the mapping app on her phone.
2 more turn-ins, then we're onto the main road that takes you straight there.
Gabby pushes the car faster, and they hit 100 miles an hour. As the tyres bounce and skid over the tarmac, they speed on through the light of the day, eating up the miles. As they near their destination, Gabby has to slow down as she can see that the road is pitted with holes. Then the road ends completely and becomes just plain earth. They kick up a cloud of dust as Gabby negotiates the route. But she pushes the car harder and back up to speed.
1 minute,
says Laravel. They both scour the road ahead for a sign of hands or any vehicles they recognize, but they see nothing.
Come on,
cries Gabby in frustration as they approach a road junction, with rough land all around it and the new airport terminal in the distance.
There,
shouts Laravel. She points to their Land Rover that is parked up on one side of the track. Gabby is still going as fast as she can, and now slams on the brakes. The car skids in the dirt and starts to spin. The Renault careers towards the rough ground to one side and hits a rise in the land. The momentum keeps the vehicle going. The land on either side is lower than the road, and they trace an arc in the air. The Renault's nose drops first, and the whole car hits the ground hard, pushing the women forward and dangerously close to the dashboard. They both grunt as the seatbelts dig into their shoulders, and their faces are pushed into airbags. For a few seconds they sit, stunned, in the car. They say no words.
"You okay?"
says Gabby eventually.
"Yeah. My shoulder hurts, but let's get on with it."
They jump out and run either side of the road towards the MI6 SUV. Gabby indicates to go to ground, and they crouch in the grassland at one side of the roadway. "He's not in the car," says Gabby. "He must have got out to meet them. There are more powerful guns in the boot of the Land Rover. Let's use those." They run over and crouch down near the rear door of the vehicle. Gabby lifts the back door enough to let Laravel underneath and open the armaments storage at the back. "Take the G17s, says Gabby, and Laravel passes out, a gun to her. They close the boot and return to crouching out of sight near the Land Rover. "You go that way," says Gabby, pointing to the left-hand side. "But stay in visual. I'll go right." The women strike out across the grass, making a broad sweep of the land near their vehicle. They run in bursts, then drop to ground and visually check each other, then signal the next intent. Gabby eventually can see 2 men up ahead and points 2 fingers at her eyes, and Jenny acknowledges. Gabby indicates to regroup, and Laravel joins her in the undergrowth. "That's Cavall and Overbeck. I don't see Hans, though." Laravel shakes her head. They wait. The air is still in this deserted part of the airport. They can hear and see aircraft taxiing and taking off, about half a mile away.
"What's he doing?"
whispers Laravel. "Planning his movements, I should imagine. He must be watching from somewhere." 5 minutes pass. Their breathing slows as they wait. Then Laravel says,
"There he is."
She raises a finger to show Gabby that Hans has appeared from behind the men. Overbeck and Taras can't see him yet, but he has a gun drawn and trained on them.
"Do we go?"
says Laravel.
1 minute.
Let's see what he's doing. Hans gets nearer to the men. They still don't hear or see him. Then, when he is 20 feet from them, Taras does hear him and turns rapidly. He immediately pulls out his Grash Yerigin pistol and fires some shots. Hans dives to ground, and Taras starts to walk towards him, still firing. "Go," says Gabby. And the women rise up from their cover positions and start to run the 50 yards towards Hans. They both fire off some rounds, and Taras turns to them and returns fire. Victor has a gun drawn, but hasn't used his gun at all so far. Gabby and Laravel keep firing to push Taras back, and the tactic works. He runs further away from Hans and the approaching spies. The women reach Hans. "Bloody cavalry just in time," he says. "Fucking trap, wasn't it?" "Are you hit?" says Gabby. "No, graze." A shot fires past their heads from Taras. "Get the transport, Gordon. Jenny, with me." The women give chase to the retreating men, and Hans runs back to the Land Rover. Taras, limping badly now, leads Victor in a half-run back to their Mercedes. They pull the doors, and Overbeck slams the accelerator down as they pull away. Hans and the Land Rover are speeding over the rough ground towards the women. He skids the car to a halt next to them. They get in, and the Land Rover pulls away in pursuit. "Faster, Gordon," says Gabby. Hans accelerates the car. They come off the scrubland and pull out onto a roadway with the Mercedes 50 yards ahead. Slowly, yard by yard, second by second, the Land Rover narrows the gap. Overbeck seems to miss a gear, and the Mercedes slows suddenly, giving Hans the chance to get within 20 feet of the other car. He turns the wheel and pushes the engine more. The Land Rover slides up alongside the Mercedes until they are nearly level. The wheels of both cars pound along the concrete roadway, within inches of each other. "Hold it steady, Gordon," says Gabby. She waits as Hans aligns the speed of the two cars, then opens the front passenger door and steps out onto the doorframe. She lunges for the Mercedes. For what seems like more than the 1 second that it takes, she is in mid-air, between the cars. Then she lands with a thud and curls her fingers around the roof bar. Taras fires at her through the bodywork of the Mercedes, but the shot is wildly off. She climbs onto the roof and more shots come through the metalwork. Gabby scrambles to the far side of the car and pushes her gun hand down against the side window. There's the sound of glass shattering as she fires. Then she starts to push more of her body weight over the edge. Taras pushes out the half-broken window. He lunges an arm at her and gets hold. He tugs, pulling Gabby down and beyond the point where she has grip. Her body falls down the side of the car. She flails her loose hand in the air, in search of something to stop her falling. The road surface looms closer. Then her hand grabs for the stanchion between the windows, and her fingers grab it, pushing a stabbing pain through the tendons in her arm. One of her legs follows gravity downward, and, for a second, she falls further and cries out as the weight of her body pulls on her fingers. Gabby brings a foot around with momentum and manages to reach the front window. She kicks into the car, not knowing exactly where Taras's head is, but she feels something soft and squashy against the toe of her boot, and a shout of pain, so she knows she must have hit home. The kick allows her to pull herself back up and away from Taras. She swings up and gets a firmer hold on the stanchion and levers herself back up to the roof. She scoots forward and down across the front windscreen, locking her feet on the roof bar. She can see the men inside. Taras has one bloody eye, where her kick had hit him. She raises her gun to Victor and shouts for him to stop, but she's not sure he can hear her. The Mercedes accelerates further. The wind whips across Gabby's body and pushes her arms wildly, so she loses aim on the driver. Suddenly, Victor opens the driver's door and jumps away from the vehicle. He rolls onto the road, and Hans only just misses running over him, with the Land Rover, that is 20 yards behind now. The Mercedes starts to take a long, curved path off the road. Gabby can see Taras lean over and try to regain control of the vehicle. He pulls the wheel hard, and the Mercedes swerves, enough to send her rolling off the windscreen and crashing back onto the road. She hits the ground with her shoulder, but manages a roll to dissipate energy from the fall. The Mercedes continues its veering path. Gabby lies motionless on the roadway. The car reaches the end of the hard surface and careers on into the grassland. It turns on one side, starts to roll, flips over, and is pushed over and over before it comes to a standstill, upside down. Hans has stopped the Land Rover, and he and Laravel run out to Gabby. As they do so, the Mercedes ignites and a ball of orange flame rises up into the Hungarian day. Laravel kneels down beside her boss.
Gabby!
Her voice is emotional.
Fuck's sake!
Gabrielle's face is still. Dirt from the fall is smudged down one cheek, and a cut oozes blood from above one eyebrow. Laravel slaps her cheek.
Wake the fuck up!
Hans arrives beside her with a water bottle. Without hesitation, he unstoppers the bottle and throws water at Gabby's face. Hans and Laravel wait in the dirt of the road. A second. 2. Then Gabby coughs and opens her eyes. They don't speak at all, but can't help smiling.
Caval?
Says Gabby, after a second.
Dead, Gab. Roasted alive,
says Hans.
Overbeck?
Ran off before we could get him, towards the airport.
Help me up,
she says. They get her into a sitting position.
We're running out of time. I know this sounds harsh, but if you won't come quietly, we'll have to consider other outcomes.
The 3 spies flick their gaze between each other, all hoping that it won't come to that.